Oh, hey, didn't see you there. So it's Jared, and have you ever really wanted to impress your friends with like a neat little trick and test yourself in something that you might not thought you would be able to do, but it's actually a lot simpler than you might have thought? The Rubik's Cube. Rubik's Cube is a fun little puzzle game that's been around for ages, and it's a real good way to test yourself. And some people might find it difficult, but it's actually a lot easier to learn than some people make it out to be. So this is what I'm going to be doing today. I'm going to teach you how to solve a Rubik's Cube. Let's get into it. As you can see, this is what a Rubik's Cube looks like. If you're curious, it's MF3RS, and there's 3 different types of pieces that you're going to have to know. Of course, there's 6 different colors on the cube. They can vary between each cube, but the main ones you're going to see are here. So you have your centerpieces. These centerpieces, they don't really move through rotation. They can't really be rotated around. They can be moved around the cube, but not rotated around the cube because they're in the center. So these will always stay the same. This is where you're going to align everything when you're solving. Then you have your edge pieces. These will move around, but they're more important when you come to your second layer, when you're going to start working on actually building up the middle of the cube. And then the corners. These move around the most. These pieces right here, across the entire cube, move around the most, and it's what we're going to be working with first. So first, what you're going to do, got to scramble the cube. No way to solve it if there's no scramble. So any scramble that you do within 20 moves can be solved. What that is, I don't know. It's something crazy. So we have this scrambled cube. So what we want to do, we're going to make a white cross. We're going to get white pieces here, here, all throughout these 4 pieces. So we're going to look around. What do we have? Well, I see a great one right here. So this white piece is right here. And what we want to do, we want to get it up there. So you just rotate it upwards. But what's important is that this orange here, so it's white and orange, this orange has to be aligned with this center orange piece. And it already is, so that's great. That is one piece in the right spot. So now we're going to keep looking around. Nothing's in a great spot at the moment, but what we can do, we're going to move this. We're going to move this piece down. So now we have this white piece, this blue piece, and we can flip it up. So now the white pieces are aligned here and the blue is aligned here. Perfect. Now I'm also going to move this green piece, this green edge, down. And we're going to flip it to the green, so it's aligned here, white, flip that up, white, green, green, white. That's perfect. Now we have one more piece to find. Now this is on the bottom layer here, but not down here. So what we're going to do, we're going to move this down, out, and around. So we can move this up, move this back. Now we have this white piece here. What we're going to do, we're going to move it right to back where we want to go. Red, flip it up, boom. That's the white cross done. So what I would recommend is that you pause, take a minute, and try doing this on your own before you keep moving on, because this is the first real checkpoint of solving a Rubik's Cube, is getting this white cross aligned with the edges and centers of each individual color. So next what we're going to do, we're going to get these corners up to finish the first layer. So as you can see, you have a corner with white, red, and blue. So what we're going to do, perfect. It's already in between the red and blue centers. So we're going to move it away from this part so we can rotate this down without affecting this piece's movement. So we move this back, move it up, and that's in place. So it's aligned with this red center, this blue center, and up on the white. That is perfect. Now we're going to look for another piece. I'm going to do this piece here. So it's aligned with orange, with green. So now we're going to move it away out of this rotation, move it down, move back, move it up. And as we did that, we actually corrected this piece here. So we're going to do that now. So move it in between, blue, orange, white. Move it out of rotation, down, up, and back. So now we're starting to build this little T here, as you can see. Now we have this last piece right here. I'm going to move it directly underneath this. So it's nice and easy to move it out of the path of this rotation. So now this white piece is here where my middle finger is. Move this up. It didn't affect that. So now you can move this right back to where you want to go. Do exactly what you did before. And now your first layer is all done. It's all aligned. Make sure you keep it aligned with that center right there. So now we're going to move on to the second layer. So what we're going to want to do for the second layer, we're going to find edge pieces. So we have this green and orange edge right here. So I'm going to line it to make this T, where we have these 5 pieces in place. And now the orange is here, so what we're going to do, we're going to move it away from the orange, kind of similar to what we did in the first layer. Move this down, move this back, move it up. So now, as you can see, although this piece is out of place from here, it's now aligned with this green and orange edge piece. So all you have to do is exactly what we did for putting the corners in on the first layer. Move it away from the rotation, move this down, move it back, move it up. So now this piece is in place. So now we're going to look for another piece. Boom, we have this piece right here. Blue and orange, the orange is here. We're going to move that away. Down, back and around. It's aligned perfect. Now we're going to do exactly what we did on the first layer. So while we did that, we actually got one of the pieces out of there. So now we're going to align this blue and red. A lot of times you are able to correct yourself as you're going along because you can remove pieces as you work, as I just did on this piece here. Now this green and red is here, even though it's up in the corner. There are some times when you're going to have to put in pieces that you don't want to get other pieces out. So red, green, move it away, down, back, and around. Do exactly what we did in the first layer. Now you have 2 layers solved. That's great. But now we actually have to start learning a couple of jargon pieces that you're going to have to use to solve the cube. So we're on OLL and PLL, orientating last layer and permutating last layer. So what we're going to want to do, we want to move this so whatever of the shape that it's making, there's going to be an opening in this left corner. It can also be done in this corner, but I just always go with this corner. Makes it easier for me to remember. So now we're going to start learning a couple moves on the cube. So there's 8, really 4 that you have to remember. So it's R, that just moves it back like this. R prime, it's the opposite of that. L, like that. L prime, the exact opposite. F, that's when you flick it clockwise. Counterclockwise is F prime. And then U, it's again clockwise if you're looking at it like this, but we're holding it like this. U prime. Those are the 8 moves, but it's really 4 because the other ones are just the opposite of one another. So they're really easy to remember. So just remember as you're doing it. So now I'm going to do what's called a sexy move. Yeah, ha ha ha. It's just what it's called. So now we're going to do a sexy move. So it's F, R, U, R prime, U prime, F prime. So we're going to keep doing this until we can get a yellow cross as we did with the white. So I'm going to do this a couple of times over. And look, we have this cross. So now we're going to go with a fishy move. You're not really going to see the fish as of now. But if I were to flick this piece up, as you can see, you make this little yellow fish, and that's why it's called a fishy move. But we're not at that point. We might not have that in this case. Also, don't move your corners. I was just doing that for example. That's not how you solve a cube. So we're going to do the fishy move. So in this case, I prefer doing R because my right hand's a bit more dominant. So you do R, U, R prime, U, R prime, U2, R prime. So now we have another way we could solve. In this case, there's some that you're going to have to remember. But in this case, I always go with the left fishy move. So L, U prime, L prime, U prime, L, U2, L prime. So now we're back here where we were. But now this piece is here. So I'm going to do R, U, R prime, U, R, U2 here. And now we have the fish. So this is why it's called the fishy move. As we can see before, we make a little fish. Now we're going to look for the fish bait that's right here. So now I'm going to solve as such. R, U, R prime, U, R, U2, R prime. Now we are on PLL, the last layer. And we got an unfortunate case. So I'm going to line it up as so. But there's none of the sides that are either solved or we have headlights on. So what I'm going to do, we're going to do T-Perm. So T-Perm, it's the most complicated one. But once you learn that, there's nothing that you can't solve with this cube. So it doesn't really matter what side we work with. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to do R, U, R prime, U prime, R, F, R2, U prime, R prime, U prime, R, U, R prime, F prime. So what this does, it gives us either one solved side or a side with headlights. In this case, it gave us a solved side. So we're going to keep this to the left, and we're going to do T-Perm one more time. So again, R, U, R prime, U prime, R prime, F, R2, U prime, R prime, U prime, R, U, R prime, F. So now we are on the very last step. We want to move these headlights, as I mentioned before. We're going to move them to these sides. So what we're going to do, I'm going to move it clockwise, so I'm going to start with right fishy move. R, U, R prime, U prime, R, U2, R. Now we're going to do, we have the fish as we've seen before. We're going to do a left fishy move. Look at that. Solved as such. So these are the moves that we did. If you want to take a picture of them, save them. And I really do challenge you. It's not as hard as it seems. I really do challenge yourself to put yourself out there, try to see if you can solve a cube, and have fun.